All right. So same as usual. I'm gonna wait a few minutes and update the sources that I need to update, and then we'll get started. And this stream will run probably for a while, because this weekend's gonna be all about getting things done. So, yeah, not much to do other than get started on that. Da-dum. Da-dum bum bum. And I'll update that up here. All right. So, that seems pretty straightforward. That seems pretty straightforward. All right, cool. Let's make sure that the chat is up. It is. Cool. And that means I can pretty much get started, I think. And I may want to grab some water or something at some point. So, the first thing I want to do, before anything else, the first thing that I want to do is I want to start finishing up the bounds checking for these boxes, which is pretty much, right now I have this nested loop or something, but pretty much I can get rid of that because I think I'm only going to check against the player. So let's do this. We're gonna call the player. We are going to call this the entity stop player. Oh my goodness. All right. Entities.player is going to get passed in. And I'm actually just going to pass in the direct reference to the entity. So let's add some notes so that this isn't like a foreign to me, that I know what's going on when I come back sometime in the future maybe and start looking at this again. Because eventually I want box collision for everyone regardless of whether or not they're moving. So you should be able to like be walking around and bump into someone basically. But I was thinking about this last night and it kind of didn't work out that well. Like there's complicated stuff that I wasn't thinking about, that I don't want to think about. So this will give me bounds, which is the left and the right, and then basically inside here I can swap this stuff out. And we'll do this just basically really quickly while I wait to see if anyone's going to show up or not. And from that point, I will sort of go over everything that happened earlier, what I've been doing over the rest of the week. Sorry. Almost got wrapped up in something else for a second. So basically, I'm going to treat every other one of the boxes as if they're static. That stuff is done. Timeline stuff is done. Cool. Cleanup. The collision code refactor is going to be done really, really soon. Map loading. Basic loading is going to be done. So we're gonna call this first viable. We're gonna say level transitions need to go in here. Doors is a stupid one that still does need to exist. Doors are how I'm gonna basically just check to see if the collision code that I'm writing right now is actually working. We also need to take a look at oh yeah, dialogue controls and second level. So that looks halfway decent, I think. This is super doable. This is gonna be a long stream, but there's gonna be a lot that gets done in this stream. A lot that gets done. So this is the same idea. Good. I do want this collision stuff to be open. Don't want to be looking at trigger collision. I want to be looking at box collision. Box collision basically just checks all this stuff up here. This is not super great for maintainability. I would like to rip this out and do something else because I feel like I could, but yeah. It's just not. We're aiming for minimum viable product today, basically. So not everything is a super priority. I'm actually just going to copy most of this code. I mean, I could basically always give them priority. Right? That would be weird, but let's leave it off for now. And I will come back and take a look at this later. What am I doing here? Yeah, okay. Yes, yes, yes. I'm checking collisions. My goodness. And again, I have to check them in both directions because of how the collision detection I'm doing works. But I can basically deal with that elsewhere. Again, this is all very, very rough code, but it's kind of fine for right now because, like, none of the collision detection that I'm doing is very complicated. This is basically the exact same thing. We're going to say, the target for this would be that the right side should be touching the left side. Seems reasonable. So why is this? This shouldn't even, like, work. Because if velocity y is 0 and you bump into a tile, wouldn't that slide you? It really seems like you would get just slidden in that case. Slided. You would get slid. It doesn't seem like that should work. Let me think about that for a sec. Yeah, I don't know why this is working then. Because it seems like if you bump into yeah, it seems like it means that if you bump into something from the bottom and you're not touching it, it should set your left velocity for you. Why wouldn't it? So I'm going over each map. I'm also calling map.serialize. I don't need to. All right, that will make things a tiny bit more efficient. I'm going over each map. Oh. It's explicitly because it only checks for collision in there. I guess that's what I need to do. I guess I need to do my collision detection in there for right now. It's not great, but not great, but doable. Oh, and that means that just checking for a collision is also, like, not amazing. Because if you're just moving straight up and you're hitting into something... Oh, no, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Is it fine? Because you could be rubbing up against an entity like a door. And if that's the case, you don't want to... Yeah, I have to check each side separately. Alright, it's fine. It's fine. I'll stick here. Check X velocity and Y velocity separately. Cool. Cool. So yeah, this whole colliding thing is probably not... So we'll call this just box. And then we'll say point X, point Y. And then we can check basically to see if those points are inside of each other, but it's still kind of unreliable, right? Let me grab a whiteboard because I have a feeling I'm gonna want one throughout today. Where on earth is my eraser? Alright. So, for occlusion detection, you end up with some kind of weird problems. Basically, if we just grab a point and we say that there's an X collision, what that means is that the two boxes need to be colliding as normal. So we need to be able to say, are these two boxes colliding? Then we need to say, are they colliding left side, right side, upside, downside? That's not the weirdest thing in the world, right? Because it means that, so I can check collision. And then I can check bounds. So it's not the weirdest thing in the world. In fact, I think that's how I'm going to end up doing it, is I'm going to split it into those two separate states because, I mean, just for right now, I guess, I feel like there's probably a simpler way to do collision detection that's, like, less involved than what I'm doing right now, that has, like, fewer checks. I feel like that is quite likely, actually. But, so this is going to be basically the gateway code that's like, hey, if this doesn't run, then there can't possibly be a collision happening right here. This stuff should be indented correctly. There we go. That's basically going to be the gateway stuff. And then over here, we're going to say, okay, if you're moving left, basically, I'm going to say if your left point is yeah, basically, I'm going to say if player bounds dot left is less than, well, no, because you could be, oh, crud. It should actually be fairly straightforward to do this. This should not actually be all that hard to do. So what's different about this that makes it harder than with the tiles? With the tiles, I had some assumptions I could make about size, as I guess what the problem is. I guess that's what the problem is that back when I was doing tile collision, I could make some assumptions about size that I'm no longer making. But I can still make some assumptions, which is basically that the player is never going to be smaller than the thing it's colliding with, because the player is a single tile. So unless I want to do like box collision, which I wouldn't, if I wanted to do like box collision mid tile, which I don't, and I'm never gonna want to do that. So why would I even worry about that? I would only ever check the player against something that's bigger. So the scenario that might actually happen, is I could have something where like the player is this big and they're colliding with something that's that big. And that's actually quite commonly going to happen, because like doors are 2 tiles large. And if that's the case, then I basically want to just check if either of the points for the player are colliding. And I can check individual top-bottom indices for the player, because that's always going to be the collision stuff that I'm checking. It's never going to be the opposite. I'm never going to have the player colliding with something smaller. So I'm just gonna check that, actually. I'm just gonna say, yeah, you know what? Yes. I am just going to code that up very quickly, actually. All right, this is easier than I thought it was going to be. So I still have bounds, but bounds are not as important as I thought they were. Let's code up colliding again in the way that actually makes sense. Box X, Y. So this should be straightforward. I feel like I'm still kind of getting into the groove of programming again. I went to bed last night and forgot everything. And now I have to kind of make sure that my brain is on. It makes me almost wish that I just started streaming last night and when I was being more productive. Alright, so I basically need to just check if X is between the 2 points and if Y is between... Yeah, okay. And I'm passing, like, bounds into... Yeah, colliding is messed up anyway. I don't want to do that. We will do equals a less than for that. I think that's basically the extent of it, right? And you do that for each point. So I'm just basically going to say inside here, get rid of this. Yeah. Seems reasonable. Actually, bounds are great for this, right? Because I can just say left, yeah. Box. Yeah, seems reasonable. Seems reasonable. And again, like this could probably be condensed, but I'm gonna write it out. If you write out your code first, like completely write it out, then you can see patterns where you're like, oh, this can actually just be repeated here, or this can actually just be like a for loop or something. Which I do care about doing a little bit, but not as much as like manually stepping through the code right now to say what is literally the most basic form of what I'm doing. Now, this is also going to be off by 1 pixel, I'm pretty sure. But, at least it'll give me something to test. Although I will need to make a door to test this on, which is not too bad. Or just make like another, or just make a player, actually, is what I should do, is just make a second player. Should be fine. Velocity Y is it's moving down. So this would be bottom. No, that's the actual point that I want it to move to. All right, so this is also wrong, but one step at a time. One step at a time. But yeah, this is also wrong. I'm looking at it right now and just realizing that the movement code for this has to actually calculate the delta. So this is right, left. Yeah, and it looks like this could probably be condensed down into a loop as well. I'm thinking is probably something I'll want to do at some point. If not today, maybe tomorrow. No, this is moving down. This is moving up. And this whole player not move thing, not amazing. What this actually needs to be is, because this is the point that we're moving to, which means we start with the current point. Now, should that be the opposite way? I think it should. Yes, because that will move it down. So in the same case, we want target y minus player bounds dot top. Let target y equals what was it? This would be box bounds dot bottom. And two of these need to have separate pixel collisions, I think, or colliding points needs to have a pixel offset or something. I'll be able to see this as soon as I get into the game, but yes. Alright, so let's check and see if this all collides or builds correctly. Nothing blew up. I actually think that this might be good to go. So I need to add another player. We're going to jump into tiled really quickly. This whole player thing, we're going to copy and paste you, and we're going to put you right here. Your name is not player. This is going to be collision. Cool. Now I'm going to jump over into debugged. I like that works. Okay, so this did not actually work. Why not? It's because I am actually checking. No, crud, it doesn't work that way. Why doesn't it work that way? Because I don't want to take into account all of the velocities beforehand. So I need to separate out the player bounds dot right is not what I want to check here. I want to check if my Y velocity moves me into it. Which basically at this point, why am I even using boundaries at all? But, basically, I don't want to take Y velocity into account when I am checking, I don't want to take Y velocities into account when I am checking collision stuff. Hey, Game Dev 513, how are you? Or do I want that to be the opposite way? No, I don't. I want to check X velocities before I check that. And in the same case, I want to say data.x player.data x plus player.data.width. And this is why we separate stuff out before we like try to combine everything into loops. So if I had started out by like building some kind of generic all-encompassing thing that like handled all of the collision detection in both directions, then I would at this point be extracting that back out of a loop. So that I could check to see what needed to be different and then combining it. So by leaving it extracted, by basically leaving everything unrolled and not like bundled up into a loop, we can check to make sure that everything is working right on the unrolled state. And we can wait to roll it up until after we know that all of the bugs are fixed, which is much, much faster as it turns out. And much, much it's just a quicker way to program, and you're going to spend less time messing around and trying to fix bugs after the fact. So let's jump back into debugged, and this should have compiled in the background. Okay, yes. So, obviously this X positioning stuff needs to go. It does at least look like collision detection is getting calculated on the right Y position. This is just complete offset by 1. I think everything just needs to kind of do an offset by 1. So if I'm checking the box collision, right bounds should always be offset by 1 because arrays are 0 indexed, not 1 indexed. So if you are intersecting with something on a tile from the right side, you are always going to be... It's hard to put that into words, but like if you've spent a long time dealing with array indexes on tiles with like collision detection, then you will know what I mean when I say that you have to care about the fact that your pixels start from 0 and not 1. From the left, that should be fine. Yeah. About tiles. Pixels starting from 0. So from the left, that should be fine. So now both of them should actually kind of jolt around if I retest this. And that should have compiled in the background by now. Yes. Whoa. And suddenly that's glitching back to... Did I reintroduce the exact same thing? Oh, my goodness. Ah. That should be fine. Right? Oh. Oh. This dumbness. I forgot about this. Yes. Which is that we now need to care about the pixel off by 1. And this is why I'm sort of thinking, yeah, this is when it would actually make sense to move back to sticking everything into boundary checks. So we are caring about left and right pixel positioning. Still getting pushed down, basically. What am I doing here? Player.left minus... Oh, I have this actually inverted. Oh, wait, do I? This is not really the way that you're supposed to program with this, like, try something and then guess if it works. I should be able to sit down, and if it doesn't actually, like, if this doesn't actually render out incomplete, then... Okay, so we're close. The only problem is that, boxes have this extra pixel on them, which is related to... Just gonna step through the code really quickly and see what this is related to. So player bounds.right should be 1 pixel off. Player.data.y if I'm moving left. Or if I'm moving right, then I check both of the Y positions. Great. It kind of feels like both of these should be -1. Like I'm essentially getting an extra 2 pixels wrapped around. Or is that only 1 pixel? No, this is 2 pixels. This is 2 pixels. And I still have this thing, which is like... Oh, no, that's fixed. Oh, and I can move across here. So I actually got that down to 1. How come I can move across the top, then? I don't think it's that the collision itself is wrong. I think it's more... See, because I kind of, like... I can get into the box a little bit. See, like across here, that works. I think it's the way that the collision... I think it's the way that the collision gets resolved. So this is not... I am colliding at the right point, I believe. But the way that the collision then gets resolved is not... Because if I come up... If I work with subpixel positioning, I can... Like, by positioning myself off this wall, I can get up farther. You can kind of see, if you look really closely, you can kind of see a little jolt there as it happens. So that means that it's actually the way I'm resolving the velocities that matters. So if I'm moving right and I'm about to bump into this thing, do I want to add that pixel back on? I guess. This is not what I want. Yeah, there's something messed up about this, and I want to get it working because there's so many other things I want to do today. But like this is... Oh. Wrong one to look at. Oh, that also might be the problem. Is if I was looking at... No, I'm looking at the right one. Okay, good. Close this, though, so I don't accidentally edit the wrong part. Yeah, that all seems fine. So if I'm moving up, I want to give myself an extra pixel. If I'm moving down, I want to give myself an extra pixel. This is kind of weird. If I'm moving left, same thing. Extra pixel. Right, extra pixel. Like, these have to cancel out, right? Like... I'm adding this pixel and then subtracting it. That has to cancel out at some point. But let's retest this because it seems like that's the only problem. Yeah, that's super weird. Huh. It's like I'm 2 pixels off. It's like... It's almost like the stuff that I did out here for the bounds is like an extra thing that I shouldn't be doing. I'm gonna recompile this for a sec. See, like, how I'm almost able... Like, if I lined that up perfectly, I get in and then I get pushed back out. Which is like, why? What's the problem here? This seems like... It seems like it should be pretty straightforward, right? Like... It's because I want to check this stuff inside the collision code. That's why I'm doing this stupidly. Yeah. Get rid of this stuff. Well, the collision code can't know about that, though, right? Like, it would have to be something I pass into it, which would basically be like, okay, if I'm checking the left position against heck? Okay, let's get rid of this to start with. Let's start back from the beginning. Start back from the beginning. All right, so this should all actually be fairly reasonable. Like yes, the bounds are going to be off, but I should not have glitchiness. Like it should just be wrong pixel coordinates. Now is that the case? Yes. No, this is not the case coming up from the bottom or from the left. So from the right, everything is fine, except for the fact that, like, let's tackle this one at a time. What's happening is that when I collide from the left, I'm positioning an extra 1 to 2 pixels off. Really, it looks like more than that. Really, it looks like I'm getting positioned to like 4 pixels off. Which is super weird. Why would that... Why would I be getting positioned like 4 pixels off? So I'm coming in from the left. Yeah, it should just be box bound stop. Oh, of course. Ah. And I knew this as I was typing it in earlier. I was like, oh, checking off of player bounds is kind of weird here, isn't it? Like I should be checking it off of something else. Of course, because this stuff takes into account the player velocity, and I don't want to do that. So this was just stupid on my part, this easy bug. But I should still have an off by 1 pixel error here. I should still have that. If I don't have that, then I'll be a little bit surprised. Okay, so there's still some weirdness, jakiness going off on the left side, and that's because of that off by 1 pixel thing. I am pretty sure. But the left side looks great. And I was like 4 pixels off because my velocity was like 4 pixels. It's very hard for me to squeeze in between two things. I should probably think about making player collision like 30 pixels instead, or something like that. Is probably the right thing to do. It depends on the project. For reset hard, yes I do, but I don't have like a huge... Reset hard's to-do list is split between multiple different locations. Like it's not just that the to-do list is separate from the source, it's that like I have separate to-do lists. Because some of them are like more confidential than other ones. So like the people that I'm contacting and talking about the game with, like that's not being stored in source control, because like I don't know if I'm ever gonna make the source public or something, I don't want to have like people's email addresses in it. The to-do list that I'm using for this stream is stored in source. Just because it makes, like, if I bring the code base someplace else on like my laptop or something, it makes it easier to handle. Yeah, for me it basically comes down with, would I be comfortable with the information ever being public? The thing you have to keep in mind with source control is that it's permanently public, right? Like you can't really go back. I mean, you can, but you don't want to really go back and scrub that stuff later. But if it's something where like I would be okay using a version tracker and having that information inside, or not a version, like a issue tracker, then like, yeah, why not put it in? I guess that's the other thing. Like some of my public projects, I don't use to-do lists at all. I just use issue trackers. Like that's the case for Distilled, and that's because I have to use the issue tracker for Distilled anyway, because it's a public project and that's where people are going to file issues. So I might as well have that be my canonical source of truth. For Reset Hard, I don't have an issue tracker. So for Reset Hard, I use a to-do list and I keep it versioned in source. It can be really useful, is I guess what I would say, to version your stuff. But it depends on whether or not you want it to be public and where, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I will at some point, right? Like, and the goal with a bunch of this stuff is that most of the mechanics should be unit testable. So if somebody comes and like files a bug and they're like, this thing isn't working and it should work, yeah, there'll probably be a little bit of me being like, no, like that's intended. Just kind of deal with it. Like, maybe at that point the solution is literally to just like, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's gonna be actually a little bit annoying. For Distilled, I ask people to provide me sample code. If somebody files an issue, well, I would never turn down an issue for Distilled because the user base is basically just me. But ostensibly for Distilled, you're supposed to give me an example piece of code that I can paste into a browser, like an example unit test, basically, that's failing. And then I will use your unit test to be able to tell if the bug is fixed. But like I can't ask people to do something like that for Reset Hard, like, because it's not a library at that point. It's not something you're consuming. I was getting glitchiness with placement again, and this was specifically from the right and the left, which is, I feel like, I've actually forgotten what was going on there. Let me double check that again. Huh. So moving up is blocked at that pixel. This is a 1. Yeah. So logging should actually not be too bad. Because I've worked on games before where this is awful. And this is part of the reason why the display code is so... I'm pressing the up key here. This should not be counting... Well, no, this will actually be okay, right? Because for the switch with Reset Hard is that everything is super, super deterministic. This is actually a little bit of a problem because of how I'm calculating animation frames. Like, I can't just rely entirely on request animation frame. But basically, yeah, because, like, I have to store all that information anyway, right? So it's kind of a... It's kind of easier for Reset Hard because A, the display code is completely separated from the internal app logic. So all of my app logic can be serialized out to just pure JSON. And in fact, it has to be because that's how I send it over the wire, or that's like what the data format is that I use to talk between the display code and the backend logic. I also have a at least semi-decent, not perfect, it's not perfect, but I have at least a semi-decent way of tracking. Like, some information will get lost, but a lot of information just gets preserved by default because I have a timeline and I track like player ghosts to tell if a glitch happens. So like I won't have like perfect recording of everything, but I should be able to actually just kind of like open up a level and look at your ghost information whenever I start logging that kind of stuff. Yeah, it won't be perfect. There'll be stuff that gets missed, but a lot of stuff just gets kind of logged by default. Anyway, so the problem is I'm pressing up right now and this counts as a collision, and that is that whole off by 1 pixel error. Like, that should not count as a collision. And the way that you fix that basically is when you're checking collisions, you subtract 1 from here. So if I'm trying to move up, this should be 1 pixel off. I should get a free pixel here. Because of what I was talking about earlier, left and right is fine. This is also specifically if I'm moving right, I should get a free pixel here. If I'm moving right, then I should get a free pixel for player bounds dot right. No, I do want that to be. Crap, let me think about that. Like, I know what the problem is. I'm just not sure exactly. So what's happening is I'm moving up. And when I move up, it is checking the rightmost pixel, which should be -1. Okay, so that part is easy. When I'm moving right and I go up or down, is that literally enough? I don't think so. First of all, let me move this player somewhere where I have more room to kind of walk around them. In fact, let's make this room a little bit larger, because that'll be one of the things I also do. Let's jump over to the floor. And this is why I'm using tiled, because now I can be like, okay, I want this level to be a little bit wider. I want more room to maneuver. We'll jump back onto the walls. And I'll just erase this stuff. And let's move the wall down to here. At some point, I'll probably redo this pixel art as well. Let's just enclose this entire thing. Boom. We hit save. And I want to actually move this down to where I have room to sort of walk around it. And then jump back into debug. And that's why it feels good to use tiled. All right, so this stuff is all working fine. It's the same thing here. See, like if I try to move left or right here, I'm stuck. And that is because, or left or down, right or down. And that is because I'm looking at an extra pixel someplace as well. So I'm trying to move right. This needs to be -1. I'm trying to move down, this needs to be -1, and this needs to be -1. And I would like to, like, roll this up into a more generic way of testing everything, but yeah, there we go. There's still some kind of, it feels a little bit glitchy. Yeah, that's weird. How did I pull that off? Oh, because I collided with the corner. Wow, that's weird. That doesn't happen for... That doesn't happen for other things. It doesn't happen for the tile. Why doesn't it happen for the tile? All right, so I want to throw a breakpoint in here, and I want to see exactly what's happening. And I'm not going to go too far into this because, like, mostly, to be honest, the big reason I'm doing bounds, or the big reason why I'm doing entity collision detection at all is because doors are entities. That's pretty much the only reason. So I may ignore this glitch for now because doors, you will never be able to touch the corner of a door. So it's not the biggest concern in the world if it's a little bit glitchy for other things. But I would like to potentially fix some of it. Oh, I should have the debug. I'll fix that at some point. So I don't want to look at maps. I want to look at box collision. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that should... When I'm colliding on the right side... I'm colliding... Oh... Yeah, with my current structure, it's going to be hard to fix this bug. If I'm colliding on the right side and I'm also moving down... But then shouldn't that work with both of them? Because... I shouldn't be colliding on the Y then, because I just resolved the X velocity, and the X velocity is now 0. So there should not be a Y collision anymore, right there. So the player is moving down. Oh, I see it. Cool. Now I still should have, if I can get it to work. Yeah, I still have that bug, but like whatever. That is such a minor thing. And I need to fix that in a general way. I'll fix that when I sort of push everything together. So one thing I want to do is, first of all, I want to commit this. Um, cool. All right, so that's committed. So one thing I want to do is reduce the player's collision detection a tiny bit. Let me take a look at, speaking of to-do lists inside of repositories, let me take a look at todo.org. No. This is... I think I had something up here someplace as well. I'm gonna call this... Nah, I'm not gonna call that done. So yeah, I want to take a look at the player code. And I want the player collision detection to be slightly less. Well, actually, let me check that really quickly. Let me jump into tiled and actually check that really quickly. If I move this player up here, hit save, and then we refresh this. There we go. How hard is it for me to... Oh, it's basically not hard at all for me to thread that gap. Now, part of that is because I can line it up very easily. What would happen if it was over one? So now I have nothing to line up with. Yeah, and that becomes a little bit trickier. But also not too bad. Like, that's just because I haven't fixed the corner collision stuff. Maybe I don't need to reduce the player's collision to tiles. I mean, like, I probably want to anyway. But, it's nice to know that that's not, like, the craziest thing in the world. Well, the player's width and height is already 30 instead of 32. Oh. Because everything sets that itself. Oh my goodness. Level loader. Map template. And we also load entities. And how do we do that? I think that the way right now we're loading entities is we're just going off of the width and the height inside there. Which means I could override this for the player. I could, for the player, just say like, well, always set the collision data to be 30 by 30, which is probably fine. How do I want to do this? Why am I allowing anyone to override any of that stuff? Yeah, my goodness. All right. And now these should be smaller. Yes. So now this is slightly smaller, which makes it easier for me to just like kind of gap around things. And this is a very, like, it should actually probably even be smaller than 30, but this is a pretty straightforward way to handle stuff for right now. Okay, that makes me feel good. Still a ton left to do. What's next? Probably adding in the door entities again is what's next. Let's take a look at the to-do list. Level transitions are going to be handled by a trigger entity. Basically, whenever you touch that entity, I will throw an event out. Ooh, let's take a second. Let me show you what main looks like. So I did a whole bunch of cleanup for the main code. And it's like way simpler now than it used to be. So this is the main like level loading for everything. And there's only a tiny bit of stuff left to do here. So it used to be that like I'd wait for players to connect and then I'd insert them into the level or something like this. So now this is much simpler. We have level loading, which is basically you pass me in a main file and I will load everything up and handle that. Then I've got, this is the server code, which is that I make a generic server. This interface is kind of messed up. Like, this will get even cleaner than it already is. Most of the size of this right now is actually just comments. But anyway, on a server connection, I then grab the player and build a controller for the player, and then I load up the initial level, and then start running it. And the thing that I'll need to do today at some point, once I get trigger entities in, is that once the there will be some sort of event that the level loads that's like, hey, load this next thing. Yeah, I'm very, very happy about that, though. So level transitions are going to need to happen, but they should happen probably post getting doors working. Doors, I guess, are the next thing, which is just make a basic entity for them. They're going to be pretty simple. Dialogue controls, I'm also not too worried about. I have more of an idea about how I'm going to handle that. A second map is I'm just going to make a second map and stick it in. NPCs are just going to be linked to dialogue controls. And then there'll be some generic cleanup. And that will be a minimum playable game, which will be that you can load up a level, you can walk around, and you can get into another level. And I can do some dialogue, and I can start building some puzzles. And after that, despite the fact that that will be like extremely limited functionality, I will actually probably jump over to doing like sprite work and cleanup and like caring about little details with it. Again, just to make the game look nicer. Which is probably what I'm going to spend most of next week on, is details like, small details like, do loading screens actually pop up? I guess what I should add to this is inventory. Inventory might happen next week. And then some sort of visualization of the timeline might happen next week. Stuff like this. But there's a lot of like small things like this that are not like super, super ridiculously... It's not super ridiculously important that the loading screen like be animated or like that it last for more than a second. Like it's not super important that like when you reset there should be an animation for that instead of just instantly teleporting you to the same location, or like that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is really like not super important technically speaking, but it is super important because it's the first stuff that anybody sees. And I want to be iterating on a product that I can show people. So stuff like when a reset happens, I'm going to kill the player instead of just automatically triggering a reset. So you're going to get like a couple of seconds of seeing like, oh, something happened that like triggered this. Like I entered a dead state and that caused a reset. Stuff like that. But this list seems super doable today. So I'm gonna program on this for a little while. I will probably order food. I'm not going shopping for food. And I don't know if I really feel like cooking. I might splurge and actually just order food today. There is one bug, which is that resets are not happening. So I actually should check this first before I add the doors. I want to check to see why resets aren't happening. Level.loop. I think it's literally just that I changed that. I'm going to let that run in the background to see if it triggers. But I think it's literally just that I changed that event name and didn't update it anywhere else. No, it should, that should be a thing that happens. What? Oh, that's attaching the event. So that's fine. Boom. Huh. That's no longer working? Update is no longer getting called. Update is no longer getting called for... Oh, I also know what the problem is with this. Ah. This will be a heck of a lot cleaner in the future. Like this part of the code is already so much better than what it used to be. Like the fact, like if I can fit my main game loop on one screen and have it like just be on that screen, like that makes me really happy. And this should actually get a great deal cleaner in the future. Huge amount cleaner actually. Because stuff like the level end probably shouldn't even be here. The level end should be something that gets set when the level is created inside of like the level loader. Yeah. Yep. So this is actually getting called now. And in a minute, this should reset. Come on. $726 frames remaining. 726 frames remaining. $428 frames remaining. $43 frames remaining. Alright, so that actually emitted. That's gonna get caught. And reset triggers. Alright, perfect. I'm also going to commit this code really quickly because this is actually important to have fixed. Because otherwise it's a full-on memory leak, right? Like if resets... I've done enough profiling on the game that it's fine, and it's surprisingly efficient, right? Because I can have a memory leak essentially to the point where like the game is not resetting, like your timeline is infinite, and it will still take about like, I haven't timed it exactly out, but somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour for the game to crash, which is really good, because it means that the memory buildup is not so drastically bad. But it is an issue. Like if your timeline is infinite, then you are going to run out of memory on your host computer. So like having levels that actually reset is very, very important. So I am actually going to commit this stuff and push it so that the demo will be working. Okay, so let's jump into tiled and let's make some doors. So first of all, you can come up here and you can be a receptionist instead. Actually, I'm gonna leave that off for right now. So the way that I'm doing doors is super simple. I wasted a huge amount of time trying to come up with like sprites and a whole bunch of weird, like, put two tiles together and link them, and it's ridiculous and it's really, really dumb. And the way that you actually do it is you drag this out and you call it an entity and you say, hey, this is side door, and the type is door, and then you go down to custom properties. Well, you don't for this, and that's a door. That's how it's gonna work. And like, yes, it does mean that you don't get a nice sprite for that, but like, come on, it doesn't matter. Same thing up here. This is a door, and we're going to call it top door. Or we're going to call it office. I don't know, end door or whatever. It doesn't matter. And it's going to be type door. And it's going to have a custom property that says key. Which is basically if you have this string key in your inventory, then I'm going to accept it and allow you to open the door, which means you need to have a thing. And I could actually like type out a key for this, but it's probably better to say office key or something. And that's how doors are gonna work right there. It's gonna be super simple. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do for sprites for these, because I kind of need to it kind of forces me to do like rotation and to care about their orientation. But like on the other hand, like it's probably fine to do that. The pixel art that you're looking at right now is actually more complicated than what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for like Pokemon Gold level sprites. So like that means at some point I will probably switch from these being 32-bit tiles to being 16-bit tiles. I'll still, and then like I'll scale them up or something. So it's probably fine. Like I'm not 100% sure how sprites are gonna work for doors, but like it's not gonna be too complicated. So doors exist, which means that I need a door entity. Well, there's two steps to this. First of all, I need to go back into the level. And I need to take a look at main, which means that I need to add this as another entity type. Again, at some point in the future, it might be worthwhile to make this automatic and to make the main file auto-generated. I'm not going to worry about it right now because it's just not worth it at all. And it might never become worth it. But now we are pulling in a door, which is good. And src, node modules, entities. We're going to make a door.js. And this should be relatively straightforward. I'm gonna pull open the player code for a reference, but there shouldn't really be anything interesting happening here. I don't even think I need an update code for door. So what I'm thinking is... I want to be able to turn collision on and off for my collidable object. Alright, so... very quickly, very quickly, I'm going to jump into collision here. We are going to add a... I want this to be generic eventually. Let's add a disabled false. And let's go down here and... this doesn't need to exist anymore. There, so I can turn off a collision detection now if I want to. So this whole locked is in null or not null or whatever. By default, we'll assume that a door is locked, but again, you can override that. I'm gonna call this type box. This will get auto set. Entity loaders should auto set this. I believe that by default you get a collision object for free. So I'm just gonna set this to width equals 0 and height equals 0, and I'm not gonna worry about it. Because I think it gets auto set. Now, there is also a trigger area there's also a trigger area, and I actually want to take a look at entity, not player for this, because I think what I want to override is template for this. I think that, yeah. So I also, I think, want to get... I might also want to add a move thing to entity itself, like something that like loops over all your occlusion boxes and moves them. It's probably not... Nah, it's probably not super necessary. I'm gonna leave collision as blank, actually, because I know that it'll get auto set, which is a little bit unfortunate, but like... This is going to be a trigger. And similarly, if a door is open, I want to be able to disable the trigger. I don't even really need template for that, because I can base the trigger. I can basically check to see if the collision is enabled or disabled. And base the trigger off of that. No, there's no reason. Like I can build the trigger dynamically up here. Maybe. Yeah, I'll do it inside template. That's probably better. Is it? No, it's better for me to do it up here, because that's more sort of responsive if I don't want to go through the template in the future. The template should be stuff that is not completely auto, stuff that depends a little bit on like non-entity properties that you pass in, like custom stuff from the level. Yeah, so var trigger should literally just be I'll give you like 15 pixels, I guess. Hey, how are you, Blue Terra? So am I returning anything? I don't need template, and I'm pretty sure I don't need update. So I'm pretty sure I can just say module.exports equals door. It is going great. It's kind of crunch time. So the goal for today, and possibly extending in tomorrow as well, but I'd like to see how much I can get done just over the entirety of today. The goal is to get something that I could call a minimum viable product, which probably won't look very good, but it'll be an example puzzle, and you will be able to load the next level after you finish that puzzle. I mean, you can pull up the to-do list. Yeah, so that will involve, right now I'm working on doors. I will also be doing dialogue controls and some NPC stuff. And this section is the goal to what I would call minimum viable. And this section down here is bonus. And what that'll basically allow me to do is I'll be able to spend all next week just like actually making the game look good and like adding in some animations and stuff. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. It should actually be a pretty good day. I'm just gonna be programming for most of the day, actually. How has your day been? Doors should actually be working right now. Like, this should not... they won't be drawn on the screen yet, but, let's check and see what happens. Whoa, what's the problem with this? Cannot read properties script. Why are you saying that you don't have properties? That's super weird. I'm sorry about that. I've been kind of varying times a lot because I wanted to kind of see what people's reactions would be. But a side effect has been that, like, there's just been completely random streaming times for the past week, and I apologize for that. The good news is that no matter what your schedule is today, and probably to a certain extent tomorrow as well, I will probably be streaming, like, certainly today I'm going to be streaming, like, all today until I go to bed. And tomorrow I'm going to be streaming most of the day as well. And next week, since it's kind of crunch time, I don't know what my streaming schedule will be then, but I'll be similarly around for a large portion of the week, because that's all leading up to an upcoming hackathon where I want the game to be in something of a demoable state. Why is this breaking? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's right now. Part of that as well has been the fact that, like, last week was crunch time. So I was actually, like, even today I was actually planning on starting earlier. And what ended up happening was just that, like, last night I was working on some collision refactoring and, like, some other refactoring and stuff, and I ended up just going really, really late. And I thought, like, well, I'll sleep a little bit and then I'll get up and start. And then I got into bed and woke up and it was like 12, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll start streaming again. The cost of letting sleep schedules run rampant. What is a good place? That's a good question, actually. Like, where else should I be updating things? Like, Twitter obviously. I should do. Discord makes sense. Are there other platforms and stuff that I should be updating? I guess the easy answer is just that I should have a consistent schedule. Like the easy answer is I should decide more than I can put together a mailing list. That would get really spammy though, right? If I sent out an email like every couple of days or something that was like, hey, I'm gonna be streaming today, I feel like that would get really spammy really fast. Yeah. I don't right now. Right now Discord is kind of serving that role. That will change. Like, there will actually be a website for Reset Hard at some point. And I guess what I should do is I should build some sort of API where like I can update what my streaming schedule is. And it should, like, the website should be able to auto pull from that and just say like, here's what I'm planning on streaming next. Because that would be like way more passive, but it wouldn't require you to sign up for one of these like third-party services. Like, the problem with Twitter is unless you have a Twitter account and you're active on it, you're not going to see updates. And similarly with Discord is even worse, because unless you're actually active on Discord, you're also not going to see anything. Oh, huh. That's interesting. Yeah, probably if I put together a website or something, that would be an easy way. You'd still have the Twitter problem of you're not going to get push notifications, but probably you don't want push notifications for a website. The other thing is that I think that Twitch itself has like a streaming update thing or something that people can subscribe to. I'm always nervous about spamming people is the thing. But it might be worth looking into. The main thing that's worth looking into is what on earth. Why is object being treated like it's... The other thing that I'm thinking about, which I should ask about on here as well, is I've been hearing a lot of devs say really good things about Microsoft's, I think it's like Mixer or something like that. I've been hearing a lot of devs say that there's a lot of good features on Mixer. That the latency is basically 0, which is super impressive because I have done streaming encoding. I've done stream encoding, and latency is a very difficult problem to solve. But theoretically, the latency on Mixer is basically 0. And also that they should have a lot more dev options for stuff that like you could have an overlay, or you could be like give chat more options for like actual interaction. So I've been thinking about like trying 1 or 2 streams on that platform, but I'm not like, from my perspective, it doesn't matter a huge amount because I just kind of put this on in code. It ultimately comes down to like what other people prefer. I am delaying looking at this code because I just don't want to look at I just don't want to look at it. Why on earth does object not have... Level loader is pulling in objects. Is it because I don't have a properties object attached to this and tiled? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I have a grid. Wait, No Man's Sky has spoilers? Oh yeah, because they added a plot to the game. Yes. Yeah, though, you should 100% not pull up streams for games that you're playing. I actually think, all right, I'm going to be annoyed if this is the case. I actually think that Tiled uses a different data format for these like multi things than it does for regular objects. Let's find out. If I look in data stripped, this is why stuff is broken, isn't it? So here's a list of entities. Why? Oh, it's fine. This is actually me being an idiot, not Tiled being wrong. This is entirely 100% my fault. Node modules. This will be super, super quick and easy to fix. So I'm looking at object.properties.script, and really I should be looking at properties.script. Because I don't know if properties will actually exist at the moment. So let's reload this. Really? Really? What did I do for... Seems fine. Seems fine. All right. The wrapper for this did not work the way that I would expect it to. Constructor is door, though. Like, what's the problem? This is weird. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just jump through more of this. Okay, so I have a list of entities, including side door and top door. Cool. Seems decent. That's super weird, though. And then I go down to add entity. So this is for side door, and we have a new, if I call new constructor on this, I should get back a door, not a function. Unless something is like horribly broken in some weird way. What on earth? All right. Yeah. Everything's broken. I get it. So that's fine. That's fine. It's like door is not returning itself. Oh, of course it's not. Oh my goodness. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? It's almost like you have to call the entity constructor before you do other things. Ah. And it's almost like when you actually call into your classes, things work. Okay, so door is not being like shown anywhere because there's no rendering code, but no, I can't actually just walk right through it. What? What? Why? Why can I walk right through it? I shouldn't be able to. The easiest way to check and see what's happening is to add drawing for doors, which is right now I'm only drawing the player because I don't know why actually, because I guess I was gonna split out sprites at some point or something. But this should be a quick change. So let's jump into canvas. Canvas is also a bit cleaner now. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it makes a little bit of difference. I actually render the entire map on a separate canvas. So you remember when I was first working on tiles, well, maybe you will, maybe you won't. When I was first working on tiles, drawing them to the map, there was all this stuff about they need to be positioned exactly on certain pixels or else you get weird blurring, all this kind of stuff. And the end result of that is that you can't take advantage of sub-pixel positioning, which is something you would like to be able to. Like, Canvas isn't great at sub-pixel positioning and like aliasing stuff or alias, whatever. You know what I mean? It's not great at blurring things between pixels, but it's okay at it, and you would like to be able to take advantage of that. And you can't if you're drawing tiles, or else you'll get little weird lines. So the way that you get around that is that you actually cache your... Now, this is a very short-lived cache. At the moment, I am throwing away this cache and rebuilding it literally every single frame. So it's not any more efficient from a performance standpoint. But you draw out your tile, you render out all of your tiles on a separate canvas using this exact pixel positioning, and then you export that out as a single image. And then that image can be drawn at a subpixel position, and it's fine, and it works just fine. And you do that literally every single frame, and it's great. Now, you don't need to do it every single frame. If I cared a lot about performance right now, I would cache this, and I would do some sort of delta to like check if the map had changed. And if it hadn't, I would reuse the same sprite, and that might make things a little bit faster. But I can do that later if I want to. What this basically allows me to do is get rid of a whole bunch of like weird stuff about positioning things after the fact. It basically means that the map code now looks like this, where before it was very, very complicated. It now looks like this. It used to look like that. It also means I can scale the entire map at once instead of scaling it every single tile, which is a lot simpler logic, because I draw the map assuming no scale, and that's just my sprite image for the map, and then I scale it up after the fact. And I don't need to worry about like, well, where should tile X be, because the 5th tile got scaled at this weird point. So that's a lot better. But I am basically looping over every single player, and what I actually want to loop over is everything that has a collision object, I think. Yeah. I'm just going to return true for this. And I'm going to see what happens. This might be horribly broken, but I'm just going to see what happens. Okay, so this did actually blow up. Easy way to fix this. I'm just going to return entity.collision. So if the thing has a collision box, I'm just going to draw it on the screen. Okay. So there are doors. They're getting positioned weirdly. Oh, and I collide with them as well. Sorry, let me switch over so that that's visible. Now, why is this door getting positioned too far over? Why is that getting pushed over? Possibly it is. Let's move this door over by 1 and like see if it stays there. See if this is actually a positioning error or if this is due to how collision resolution is happening. So I'm gonna refresh this. It does look like something weird happened. It does look like it was just kind of like pushed up. Because this is not colliding with anything. This is not colliding with anything. So why would that get pushed up? Probably some shortcut someplace. Once again, the easy way to check this is to just jump into the level loader. Is there some kind of weird thing that I'm doing to fix positioning? I am pulling in main, and I'm saying basically that I want to position everything. Oh, yes. I know what the problem is. I think I know what the problem is. I'm a little bit weirded out that this code is not where I thought I had put it originally. No, I'm doing minus object.height. Start Y at top, not bottom. Is this wrong? Should I actually be doing minus 32 here? Is it literally just that it's off by one tile? Is that literally the entire thing? Oh, you know what it stinking is? Because it's 1 based instead of 0 based, isn't it? I ran into this somewhere. Where else did I run into this? It was for the sprite properties or something. It's in here. It's in here for the tiles. Yes, index equals index minus 1 up here because yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea why tile works this way. I thought it was only for sprites. I think it's for everything. Like, I think that it's the tile-based. Well, that still shouldn't make a difference. Like, going minus 32 here shouldn't really make a difference. But, like, I guarantee I'm going to reload this, and it will. That's still in the wrong position. That's still in the wrong position. It's like I don't want to do any adjustment at all. What does this say that the Y is? This says that the Y is 192. What in the where? How would it be 192? Is 192 divisible by 32? Six. Okay, it is. So this says it's at position 6, and that looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be boop. So that would be 1, that would be 2, that would be 3, that would be 4, that would be 5, that would be 6. So it's positioned. Its Y is correct. Its Y is completely correct. Then what on earth? Because that's how I'm drawing collision boxes. I'm starting at your X and Y position, and I'm just drawing it straight down. But if I completely turn that off, if I trust the object.y height, the other things move. No, apparently they don't. What on earth? How is this working before? Let me double check on that. No, the player's position is wrong. Everything else's position is right. What? What are you doing, child? What are you doing? What? The player's position is wrong, but all the doors are correct. So if I save this, and I go into code, and I refresh this, boom, everything is perfect. So that's perfect. Everything is great. What's special about the player? Other than that, they're a sprite, I guess. Other than that, they're a sprite. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at settings for this. Map properties. Tile render order is right down. What if I changed it to right up? No, that's not gonna do anything. That's not gonna do anything at all. Why? Orientation orthogonal. No, that's what I want. Stagger index? Stagger access. Did that just change anything? I don't think so. So this is at 6288, and if I go back into here and I do stagger index or stagger access and save this, and then I go back down to you, that's still at 288. So that does nothing at all. And as I checked earlier, 288 divided by 32 is 9, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9. I mean, yeah, it stinking does position that separately. Versus 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. But why? Why would you ever want to do that? Why would you ever want to do that, though? You would never want to do that. That would be ridiculous. You would never want one of your indices to stop in the top and one of them to start at the bottom. Well, okay then. Here's what the player's gonna look like now. We're gonna call you player, and we're gonna give you a type of player. And that's gonna be the extent of it. Like, I'm okay using labels for this stuff. What I really care about is the positioning and being able to set custom properties. I'm okay with saying that that this will be just like a random thing or something like that. It's weird to me, and there's gotta be some kind of documentation that would explain this. I don't know why the difference. So what I'm seeing is that if you create an object that is based on a tile, then the Y positioning for it will be based at the bottom, and it will go up. So the Y positioning will be this point right here. If you create an area like I just did, the Y positioning will be based on the top. There's got to be a preference for that because it's insane to me that that would be the default. Like there has to be some kind of preference that I set someplace because like I literally can't comprehend that. I can't comprehend why anyone would make that decision. So I'm but in the meantime, I don't have to comprehend it. We're going to get rid of this positioning code. And I'm only going to use tile-based stuff for actual tiles. For entities, I'm always going to use one of these boxes. Now, did that fix it? Wait a minute. Did that fix it? Yes, it did. It did fix it. So if I put the player right here, then they move. All right. Perfect. So we have doors that kind of work. Like I can walk into them and stuff. I want to set up the triggers for these really quickly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the stream for like 5-10 minutes maybe. Not even. Maybe just a couple of minutes. I'm going to like order pizza or something. Am I? I don't really want... I just want to keep programming. I don't really want to cook right now. Let me think. What else do I need to do for this? What else do I need to do? I guess what I want to do is I want to... What the heck? Oh, that's a nice key combo to know. I didn't know about that. Glad I do now. I'm going to add triggers to this. Data.trigger or data.trigger.on trigger.start. I want to make sure that this is working the way that I think it is. Seems decent. What's the problem? What? Oh. Trigger is a new type of collision. Trigger is a new type of collision. Don't care about you. Don't care about you. I want to take a look at the console. Huh. Well, I guess I learned the right answer to that. Trigger is a collision object. Its width is 62. Which makes sense. Switch over to something else. Trigger makes sense. So the collision code is wrong, or what? Am I not propagating triggers right now? I might not be propagating triggers. Might not be propagating triggers. Yes. Yes. Good. Did that finish compiling? No, it didn't. So, what's the problem? That returned a function? Did trigger not get compiled correctly? Certainly doesn't look like it. Oh. Yeah. Good. That's something where linting my code would actually be useful. But, I should keep that in mind. Cool. So now I am checking triggers again. Trigger does not have an emit. Oh, yeah, it would have an underscore emit, wouldn't it? I guess it, I mean, how was I doing this before? It has an on. Come on. Oh, it's attached to private. Why? All right. Anything? Start and stop. Start and stop. Start. How much should I be caring about that? Start. So 10 is probably too much then. Because basically, if you walk up to a door, I basically just want to give you a prompt to open it. And that's how everything's going to work, is that, like, if you're close to something, you can do it. Because the level's not going to pause while you're talking or interacting with anything. So you can kind of just run past something and hit a button quick. So we're going to set the border to 10 instead, because that seems better. Ten actually still seems... Oh, this didn't finish compiling yet, did it? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Boom. All right. So, just to prove that this works before I order food, we are going to say first of all, I need to fix this so that it sends the actual entity instead of the other stuff. Then I need to jump down here where this is calling trigger, and I want it to pass out collider.entity, and I want this to pass out. Oh, no. Nope, 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 nope. Box.entity, trigger.entity, box.entity, trigger.entity. And then, instead of doing console.log, I want to check to see if entity.type equals player, or entity.id equals player. In fact, I don't even want to check that. I basically just want to say if collision.enabled, that's what I'm using, right? Yeah, or collision.disabled. Cool, blah, 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 blah. Holy crud. So this should act like an automatic door, which is basically like whenever you walk up to it, it should open for you. So let's check to see if that is actually the case. No, that's a bug because data, yes. So I want to clean this up. All right. So now, it's still triggering, right? So collision is not ignoring it when it's disabled. What? Why isn't collision ignoring it when it's disabled? And the box is disabled, right? I'm gonna throw a breakpoint there and I'm gonna check that. All right, that makes sense. Yeah. So it shouldn't check that. The player shouldn't be checked up against a disabled box. So why is the player being checked up against the disabled box? Why can't I walk through the box? The box is disabled. It's not even checking collision detection. What on earth is going on? Why can't I walk through the box? Are there multiple collision boxes there? It feels like there are multiple collision boxes, but that's not true. Unless they're, well, they're obviously not colliding with the, I mean, they're obviously not being stopped by the trigger. Okay. Here's what I want to check. I want to check if the player is moving right, and I'm calling player.move. I want to check that. Because that should only trigger when I actually am about to hit this thing. Because box.disabled is true. I stinking knew it. Right? So why on earth were you saying that you weren't checking if it's okay? Edit this breakpoint. Box.disabled. And you say that you're not checking it, but you're lying. It is being checked. Oh. Oh, I see. I see. I see. I see. Yes. So it looks like in fact, let me change this so it's actually obvious what's happening. I'm looping through everything that has a collision. Yeah. Yep. So now we have our automatically opening doors. Which is, boop, door goes away, door closes behind you. Boop, door goes away, door closes behind you. Huh. Alright, so I am gonna turn the stream off, and I'm either going to cook food or I'm going to order food. I'm not sure which yet. But I will be back on probably within an hour, or probably even sooner than that. I don't 100% know, but it'll be something like that. And then we will continue, and I'll keep working. I can basically say that doors are done, right? No, I can't. I can't actually say that doors are done. But I'm not gonna be able to say that doors are done probably until I finish the collision detection. Let me pull up the to-do list and make this a little bit more granular. So when I say that doors need to be done, what I mean is to do basic implementation, and then we're going to say to do unlocking with prompt. And this is done. Also triggers are done. I should mark that. Level transitions are going to require to do trigger entities. So I also am not 100% sure what I'm going to do next. Probably level transitions. probably level transitions, because they seem relatively straightforward to do. And that'll allow me to clean up the map code a little bit. The level loading code a little bit. So it's probably going to be level transitions, and then probably dialogue controls. Or, well, second map is going to need to happen before level transitions. So we'll put second map up first. That'll be quick to do. Level transitions will require use of triggers. Dialogue controls are going to be necessary before I finish doors, because I'm basically going to use that kind of control pop-up style thing for basically actions. So let me actually separate that out into two things on here. That I've got dialogue, and I also want... Holy crud. I also want action prompts. So this looks like the order for the rest of the day. All right. Let's get some food, and then I will start looking into that order.